All too often we talk about eating seasonally, eating locally, eating organically, and they are often identified as separate and unique aspects of how we nourish our body. My guest today is Chef Lizette Marx. She is not only a friend, she is an alumna. We went to the same school together, and I am just a huge fan of her S.O.U.L concept. We're going to dive into that and talk more about it. And we're going to learn how we can nourish our body in truly deep and meaningful ways through the food that we're choosing. Before we get started, I do want to take just a moment to tell you a tiny bit about her. Lizette is a professional chef. She's also a holistic culinary nutrition instructor and a cookbook author. She has mentored aspiring holistic chefs at Bowman College since 2005 and coaches students at the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. For more than 30 years, Lizette has shared her knowledge of cooking health-supportive foods without sacrificing flavor and inspiring people to cook with mindfulness and joy through her online cooking wellness classes at Marx Culinary. Lizette, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Oh, it's a true pleasure, Mira. It's a great chance to reconnect. It's been a long time.
It has been. And, you know, one of the things that I love is having both been through the Bowman program, although I did the nutrition education, you did nutrition consultant and chef, and then became an instructor. But just that whole philosophy of whole food, real food, deep nourishing. And I love how you refined it into your S.O.U.L concept. Can you let's just start the conversation there. What is S.O.U.L?
Sure. Well, so I remember when I first started teaching at Bowman College, and we were talking about what to prioritize when you're sourcing foods, how to find the best quality. And initially it was seasonal, local, organic, and whole, which is wonderful. And then, but we were always talking about the love and intention that you want to infuse into the food that you prepare. So it actually made more sense to be seasonal, organic, unrefined, and local. And that just sort of, it really described what we were trying to teach in the program. And then from that point on, and this was back in like 2005, 2006, when I first started teaching. From that point on, I think that just kind of expanded into sort of our mantra at Bowman College, that we emphasize seasonal, organic, unrefined, local. And then now Dr. Bowman is now adding to the end of that affordable, which I totally agree with, because we want to be able to make these foods accessible too, so that everyone can enjoy the nourishment of real food.
And, you know, one of the things that I love so much about that acronym is that it's so easy to remember, but it also gives you a framework. You know, as I mentioned when we started, I think so many people think about, oh, I'm going to focus on organic, and they're forgetting about the unrefined things. You can purchase organic food that is heavily processed and not going to nourish your body. Just because it has an organic stamp on it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the thing that we teach and that I teach to my students over at Bowman College, or whether it's at Bowman College through their holistic chef training program, or whether I'm at the Academy of Culinary Nutrition, or I'm doing my own classes, is the importance of sourcing and really getting to know your labels, right? Which is what I love about your work. It's because, you know, if first of all, if it's in a box or some kind of container, I mean, you know, that's already a little red flag to me. It doesn't mean it's bad, but do look around, look at that ingredients list and see what it's made of, and see if you can recognize those ingredients there. And of course, you can always go to the, you know, perimeter of your supermarket and get whole foods like an apple or a carrot. That seems self-explanatory. It is what you see there in front of you. It is a real food. But then you might want to see if you can get the best quality that you can find, like find out where it was grown, if that information is there. Find out, you know, of course, if it's organic, but from where. It's important to know that it's not just organic, but it's from, you know, across in another country. You also want to make sure that it's not that far from where you are shopping from. So that local aspect is important too.
And it's not only the local aspect in terms of supporting local economy, it's about the environment and food miles. I think a lot of people don't realize that the average grocery store item travels approximately 1,500 miles to wind up on your plate. And that's the average, which means some things come from much further afield. The closer we can eat to home, first of all, we're supporting local farmers, which is always a good thing. I love going to my local farmers market and seeing, like last week, I got duck eggs. Like that was
oh yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
But when we're eating locally and we're paying attention to local, that actually brings us to the beginning of that word, which is seasonal, because your local producers do not have food out of season.
That's right. That's right. So it's built in. I know I shop at the farmer's market every week too. And it's our outing. Jeff and I, my husband, who's also a nutritionist and a chef as well. We work together. It's kind of like, in fact, all the way through the pandemic, it was the one place that we would venture outside the house and go to the farmer's market. And it was just a whole ritual around it. Just that experience was also very healing, being able to talk to the different farmers, being able to source and just ask them, hey, do you have any? Because I like to use what they don't often sell, like and this is another aspect of S.O.U.L that I like to bring in. It's that about repurposing ingredients and using everything. So root to shoot, snout to tail, all of that. But a lot of times you'll see things like the carrot tops in a bin because people want the carrots. And I'm like, no, those greens are so good. They're so delicious. They make wonderful pesto. Or the beet greens, they're just all the what we would consider scraps are actually, to me, the gems, and really where the nutritional, potency is. So, and also culinary potency, because there's wonderful flavor from those ingredients.
The other thing that's so great about that is sometimes if you go at the end of the day, you may find that there are bargains to be had. Just saying, way to save money. Like I remember last summer, I live in Texas, and there's an area called Fredericksburg, which has the most amazing mid-season peaches. And there was a vendor there, and as he was selling his peaches, those things that had gotten cut in transporting or mushed just a tiny bit because there were heavy peaches on top of each other, got put aside in a bin. And I actually bought an entire bushel of peaches for $40.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I mean,
great.
that's just a great deal. And, I dehydrated the skins to make peach powder. And then I made peach chutney, peach jam, peach butter. Like we had a lot of peach stuff. But that's a great way too, because the farmer, like he was able to sell me things that otherwise would have been thrown out, because he's not going to sell seconds at first rate prices. And chances are he was going to have to drag it home and figure out what to do with it. And this way he got to make a little money. I got a little bargain, and, he still got to enjoy these
win-win
peaches. Yeah, it's a win for everybody. And that again ties into that whole soul cycle, if you will, of really being more connected with your food.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so many examples of it, even when, so one of the things I love to do is teach people to cook more from home and to see it as a healing practice, much like you would, when someone says you need to exercise and you want to walk every day or do yoga, you want to do that as part of a healthy lifestyle habit. Well, cooking from home is another healthy lifestyle habit for your health. And just change that mindset that it's not something that is a chore, but that it's actually a gift that you can give yourself and whoever you're cooking for. So it's a journey to get there, because sometimes you have to shift people's perspective on it, because it feels like a hard work, or just like I said, that chore, or overwhelming. Maybe you don't have the skills, and so that's where I come in. I like to try and teach that.
And I love that you have so many different avenues where you are teaching people. You're going everywhere from people who are engaged to learn how to become chefs to people who want to learn how to cook better at home. What would be like a good starting place for someone who is used to fixing food and doing more prepared things, where would you suggest they start to learn how to take back control of their kitchen?
Well, I think, well, when you mean fixing food, do you mean just buying prepared foods and just,
Yeah, like it
okay.
comes in a
So,
box and they say add
oh,
broth and butter
add
and you're
water.
done,
Yeah.
yeah.
It feels like you're cooking then. I mean, good thing about that is that you're in the kitchen. So you're at least in the kitchen. We've got you in the right room, right?
I love
You're in
that.
the room.
You're in the room. That's great.
You're in the room. It's like if you wanted to go, you have to do baby steps. It's like if you wanted to start walking every day, you have to first step outside, right?
Mhm.
You have to, or first back it up. You have to first put on your shoes. Then you have to step outside, get the sun, and then take a few steps. So cooking's a lot like that. If it's not a part of your rhythm, if it's not part of your schedule, the first thing is to just whatever. I mean, I'm easy. It's like, just let's get in the kitchen, let's do anything. And I usually like to start with things that are very simple and try and get people out of feeling like they have to know a recipe.
Mhm.
Because recipe reading is a whole other different skill. And I think they're fun if you like to cook. But if you don't like to cook, you probably don't want to deal with a recipe. But a lot of times with people who are intimidated about cooking, they think, oh my God, I don't know any recipes. I don't know how to follow them. They always fall apart. So my first step is to really teach people basic culinary skills to get them out of the fear around, like maybe it's their knife skills. So we
Mm.
try and first pinpoint, when I work with a client, I try and pinpoint what is stopping you, where's the apprehension, or just like, I just can't do it. And a lot of time it's overwhelmed with even, I don't know if I have the right equipment. That might be a problem. I'm terrible with my knife. You don't understand basic like heat. You don't understand your dry and moist heat methods. So I break it down into really simple steps, no recipes at all. Just get the food into the kitchen and let's start cooking it and preparing it and making easy things. So that's how I like to approach it.
I love that idea. And I also really like the fact because you're right, recipe reading can be intimidating or overwhelming if you're not used to it. First of all, there's the whole math thing, which for some people, it's like, wait a minute, what's the difference between a teaspoon and a tablespoon? I don't know. And if you can teach them how to break down their food, how to heat their food, whether it's in an oven, in a pan, and using another method, and then from there, hopefully beginning to teach them how to enjoy the different flavors. One of the
Yes.
things that I absolutely love when I am fortunate enough to have little people in my kitchen is I encourage them to taste everything that we're doing, even some of the things that maybe don't taste so great, like baking soda. It's like, hey, this is what it tastes like, but this is what it
Yeah,
does,
exactly.
and
No, that's
and
fantastic.
it's wonderful because then they develop an appreciation for what they're doing, and hopefully at least some skill building. If you're an adult and you're just coming back to this, I still love your suggestion about it's more about approaching it with a sense of play and a sense of I
Mhm.
get to be here to do this.
Yes. And also being very, the whole aspect of mindful cooking I like to teach. And the part that I really like about, like, what does it mean to be a mindful chef or cook mindfully? A lot of people, you lose them at, the word mindful because they don't really understand. Sometimes you just can't make that connection. So a lot of times you can show, right?
Mhm.
So if I go to the farmer's market and I get all these different types of fruits and vegetables, this is how I look at it. I literally cook by color. I'm looking at,
Mm.
ooh, let's see, we got the orange carrots here, we got this broccoli. And what would pair really nicely with the broccoli? Like last week, or actually this is last Sunday, I looked at all the different types of beets and I thought, I want to make a fun salad. I'm going to get the Chioggia beets because they're like candy stripe, right? And so that was my inspiration for the salad that I'm going to make for my clients. And so I'll just start that way and just look at what it's like. It's better than a candy store. There is so much vibrancy in a farmer's market or in the produce section of your supermarket. If you just take a moment, just look at what's out there and then go to the most interesting thing you see And then just start saying, okay, I like these asparagus. These are beautiful, long, slender vegetables. What can I do with these? And
Mhm.
then this is where I sort of have students and my clients think about, like, what are some of the ways that you like to eat these things, if you've ever had them before. And then if you've never had them before, then I usually go with a simple method, like simply steaming is really easy, because then you can taste the purity of that vegetable or that food. Or if you want a little more caramelization, more kind of umami, then you can roast it, because then you can get more of that out of there in that method. So, I mean, there's so many ideas. I could talk all day about this, but so that's what, with getting interest in vegetables. But even in, like, with spices, sometimes you start with, what are your favorite flavors, and
Mhm.
then where can you find those when you go and shop for your own food, and really understanding what the flavor that you enjoy, and then going out there. For some people, it's just simply they like things that are salty, fatty, and sweet, right? Because those are primary flavor tastes that we have. And when you're on I would say a standard American diet, that's primarily where you're going. You're not, the other nuances of flavor maybe aren't really on your radar just yet. It's just those
Sure.
three, right? And you probably talk about that a lot, and trying to get people off of refined foods. How do you, and I'm a big believer in adding, not taking away, or adding as you take away. You sneaky take away and you add in. And then,
I'm with you. I'm a huge fan of flavor because I think, unfortunately, most people, their taste buds have been so co-opted by
yeah,
commercial food processing, which essentially relies heavily on salt, sugar, and fat, none of which are really flavors, but they do something to our taste buds that encourage us to think that it tastes good. And if you can begin to add in herbs and spices and things that awaken our senses because they're fragrant,
yes,
and then they also have flavor, and figure out what you like and what you don't like. And not everybody likes the same thing, and that's okay. I think that's one of
totally
the other
fine.
wonderful things about the kitchen. I may be a huge fan, and let's pick a really common one here, of cilantro, and other people are going to be
Yes,
like, "Whoa," because
I know.
they have the gene where it tastes like soap. Uh,
Exactly.
it just, and even more than that, it's so here's a really interesting story that just I was just reminded of. I make bone broth a lot.
Right.
And I had a friend who was from India, and she was very intrigued by the idea of bone broth because that was not something she had done. So I taught her how to make it. And then one day she brought me a little container of bone broth that she had made herself. And she's like, "Oh, tell me what you think." And I'm like, "Great." And I went to take a sip, and my first taste was confused because it had cinnamon and turmeric
Oh,
and cardamom in it. And her family loved it. And once I realized what was in there, it was like, okay, I can see how this goes together, not what I'm used to in bone broth,
yeah.
not how I would make it. So everybody's taste is a little bit different. And the idea is to experiment and find out what you like and build from there.
Absolutely. And I love that idea that you put the spices in there. That's a great way to kind of build a really nice foundation for a lot of different dishes in, in her cultural foods, like curries and different things like that. That's a great way to do it. In fact, I do bone broths where then I infuse other spices like ginger or lemongrass, and go for more like a Thai flavor if I'm making like a tom kha or some other dish like that. Or I might go into the Latin realm, and then we'll do other things. But usually I start with that very neutral bone broth, like you were talking about. But I love the idea of playing with those spices early on. I have to talk to
Yeah,
her.
no, so that was kind of fun. Well, so
Yeah.
Lizette, this has just been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk. I did want to ask you, I know you have some cookbooks, and so for those people who are willing to get past any concerns about recipe reading, could you share the titles of your cookbooks and
Yes.
tell us where we
Yes.
can find you?
Absolutely. So the cookbook that I have had for a while is Flavors of Health Cookbook. And I believe that's available still on Amazon. If you can't find it, please, have anyone who's interested, just contact me. I also develop recipes for other authors, and I'm going to have a book coming out hopefully in the fall, maybe in the summer. It's with an author, Connie Bennett, and we put together a cookbook, and I did all her recipes, both my husband and I did them, and they're all completely sugar-free with
Wow.
no sugar substitutes, and they are delicious. And this is all sort of to help people get, into their, the weight that they should be without, inflammation. It's really a low, anti-inflammatory program, but no sugar, but in a good way. So I always say, whenever you say no something, people go right to the negative. I'm like, no, this is a celebration, because this is an opportunity to taste food as it should be tasted, as it should, those flavors as they are, rather than manipulating them and covering them up with excess, sweetener or anything like that. Because, there was a time when, this is a whole nother topic, I won't keep you, but there was a time when sugar was used as a spice. Before it became, exported as this white stuff that we have everywhere, or processed into, syrups and things like corn syrup. But there was a time we used it like sea salt, and it's used to sweeten medicines and things like that, but also added accent and brought out flavors, just like salt can bring out the flavor in an amazing way to a dish, can really just make it pop. Sugar did that too, but in its unrefined way. So I don't know. I talk about that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, refined sugar, because we're so programmed for it, food producers took it over and just stuffed a whole lot of it
shame
into, I know. They ruined sugar.
They ruined it. They ruined it because it did have its purpose, and it still does. But I think we have to unlearn and kind of clean the palate, right? Clean the slate first, so that you can heal and then awaken all those flavors that are there, just ready for you to enjoy.
Yeah.
So
that sounds wonderful. And if someone wanted to connect with you, how would they find you?
So you can go to my website, marxculinary.com, or you can just email me at Lizette@marxculinary.com. And it's Marx, M-A-R-X.
Yeah.
Marx with an X. We're like the Marx brothers.
I'll put the links down below as well, including a link to your book, so that people can find it. When the second book comes out, please let me know. I will add that to the video. Yes, I'm so excited.
I will absolutely yes. And then pretty soon on our website, we're going to have a free little course for homemade pantry basics. So just, take a look, and I'll let you know, Mira, when it's officially out. We're in the editing process, but it's a fun little free course that people can take, so they can stock their pantry with some wonderful combinations to kind of improve their cooking. So different condiments and spice blends and things like that.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Lizette, thank you so much for talking with me today. I loved learning so many wonderful things from you. And folks, be sure to click like and subscribe down below. Plus, we'll have all those links for you to check out, so that you can stay informed and know when we have more wonderful, real food, whole food, healthy, nourishing, holistic information to share with you. Have a great day. Thanks again, Lizette. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.